Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann and I'll be your host. On today's episode, I'm going to review the film Sinners. So just a little quick story time here. I actually had recorded this episode like a week ago, and what happened was when I did record it, which I usually do, I use my phone. I plug the microphone's cord into my phone to kind of connect it so that way it can go on my phone recorder app but use my microphone audio. And what ended up happening is, for some reason, my cord on my mic broke, so it was actually using my phone's microphone. And this actually happened a few weeks ago with my Minecraft review. I had recorded it, thought it was on my mic, went to my phone mic instead, and then I re-recorded the Minecraft one. It came out fine, but then I realized this time it seemed to not be fixing itself, so I had to order a new microphone cord on Amazon and I had to wait for that to come. So now I'm recording this episode again for you guys. And basically, let's just get started here. So I think every so often a movie comes around that leaves you completely speechless. A movie that you don't know how to even process because you've never seen anything like it before. A movie that's equivalent to getting off a roller coaster and overwhelms the senses. That's what Sinners is to me. That's what Sinners stands for. And I think the last time a film like this has done that to me is maybe Jordan Peele's film Nope from 2022. Both films similarly feel like events, like we're watching something truly special and epic. And I'm so glad Sinners is getting the reception it is by both critics and audiences because it deserves it. It really is truly a great film. And right now, original movies aren't doing so hot, especially when they cost a lot of money. I mean, we've seen a lot of movies this year, even ones that don't cost too much, just not perform that well, even if they're original. Like Mickey 17 didn't do well, MovieKing isn't doing amazing. We just have a lot of stuff like that, and it's very unfortunate because everyone loves IP now, and that's what the studios kind of are hearing us say as audiences. They're hearing us say, we want more superhero movies, we want more Star Wars, we want more Lord of the Rings, and they're just throwing us these franchises, which I love franchises, don't get me wrong, but I also want that original content that just keeps movies alive, that keeps just kind of cinema going. I mean, I'm sure that sounds very pretentious, but I just love original movies because, I don't know, it just, when you think about it, it's like we wouldn't have these franchises if someone didn't come up with the idea in the first place. I mean, we can get a million Star Wars movies, but it's not going to change the fact that Star Wars didn't exist until George Lucas came up with it in 1977. So, it's just like we have to keep creating original movies to get the franchises we know and love. And not to say that Sinners will be a franchise, maybe it'll have a sequel, I don't know, but Sinners just is totally a great original movie that we've been looking for. It's the kind of movie audiences have been begging for so long, and I'm just so glad people are enjoying it as much as they are. And just to see people actually going out to see this movie and really liking it is great. For context on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics and audience scores are both in the high 90s, which is very rare to see both of them like that for this kind of movie, especially horror. And the average score is between an 8 and 9 out of 10, which, since I initially wrote my notes for this review, Rotten Tomatoes has actually gotten rid of the average score, not just for this movie, but for any movie, which I could go into a whole separate conversation on why that's a problem to me, but I really don't like the fact I did that because basically the Rotten Tomatoes percentage is just kind of a general thing of like, oh, how many people liked the movie, how many people didn't. The average score, though, is the nuance of how much did people like the movie. Was it just a decent movie or was it a great movie? And as I said, for Sinners, the average score as of like a week ago was between an 8 and 9 out of 10, which is really, really good. Cinema Score, on the other hand, which is known to pull audiences after the movie, is usually known to have a lower than average score for horror movies. But, stuff like superhero movies and like comedies and all those, faith-based movies, those usually get much higher scores. But for horror, most are usually an A- at absolute best. Including movies like Get Out, The Conjuring, Silence of the Lambs, and A Quiet Place Part 2. A lot of movies people consider great. If people are considering these top-tier horror, these are still only an A-. I don't think a film has ever gotten above that as far as I'm aware. They're usually almost always lower. Usually in the B range, sometimes the C range, occasionally even the D range. Looking at you, Hereditary, which I don't know why that's in the D range, but, audiences have their taste. And in the case of Sinners, though, This is actually the first time a horror movie in 47 years has scored an A on the website. So that's a first for CinemaScore, just to kind of give you a heads up. Like, literally, Get Out, Best Picture nominee, Get Out, only scored an A-, which is still great. I mean, an A- is very good, but Sinners scored an A, and that says a lot of how much people love this film. Even when I saw it in theaters, people were clapping and cheering during the movie. People really like it. And do I think this is the best horror movie of all time, given all of that hype I just gave you? Not quite, or at least not yet, but it's still really damn good. Writer-director Ryan Coogler has been one of the most interesting voices in Hollywood lately, even beyond his first and smallest movie, Fruitvale Station. He revived the Rocky franchise with his movie Creed, which is fantastic. It was one of my favorite movies the year it came out. I really enjoy the other Creed movies too, but I think that first one is just something special. He also made Black Panther, which is easily one of Marvel Studios' best movies, and was up for several Academy Awards, including Best Picture. And then he took the tragic death of Chadwick Boseman and turned it into something very beautiful in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And even though I don't think that film is quite as good as the first, I would still give it the benefit of the doubt that Ryan Coogler was just dealt a very bad hand on that one, and he really made the best he could with it. The whole movie just feels like a tribute to Chadwick Boseman and sort of honoring what he did and how much he impacted people with the first film. And I look forward to seeing what he does with the third film. And now Coogler is finally making a completely original movie in Sinners, and it's also by far his most ambitious and risky project yet. And I'm just gonna be straight up honest, this movie is a genre-bending miracle. What this movie sets out to do is something that should have failed on a similar level to Joker 2. Just the amount of things it's trying to do, the things it's doing risky. Like Joker 2 was like this drama, musical courtroom thing, and Sinners is kind of like a drama, musical vampire movie. And just to kind of clarify on that, this movie is a drama about two twins opening a juke joint that is filled with musical elements like characters singing, and then it kind of turns into a vampire horror movie with action. And underneath all that, there's this racial commentary and themes about life, temptation, legacy, and coexistence. There's a ton of subtext jam-packed into this movie, and I'm still trying, actually, to figure out what it's all trying to say, or at least my interpretation of it. I think I'll figure that out more when I see it again, but just on a first viewing, it's just so overwhelming. I mean, I've seen so many different takes on this movie, and a lot of them are valid. I mean, I don't think there's one right take on this movie. I do look forward, though, to seeing if Ryan Coogler does, like, a director's commentary or something on the Blu-ray, or maybe, releases the script. I would love to read that and just see if I can figure out more. But I don't think this movie is just as simple as vampire action movie with music, There's a lot going on there. And whether you choose to look for it or not is a different story, but I think it just has so much to say. And I don't think a lot of people will fully grasp everything it's going for, not just on one viewing anyway, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing it again for that particular reason. But this is also just such a fantastic theater experience. But don't just see it in theaters, go rush and watch it in IMAX if you can. I mean, I know this review's a little late now and Thunderbolt is taking over, but if this movie does come back to IMAX or any other premium formats, go see this movie on the biggest, loudest thing you can, because it's so good, and it just, like, blasts the senses in the best way possible. I saw this movie in IMAX 70mm at the AMC Lincoln Square in New York City, and it was incredible. It filled up the whole screen during certain sequences, which, if you know how big that screen is, it says a lot. And there's just one scene in the movie that gave me full body chills from how good it was. You'll know the scene I'm talking about when you watch the movie. It's literally just someone performing a song, but it sort of transforms into something else, and it's epic beyond words. But going into some of my other positives with the film, I want to talk about just how well Ryan Coogler writes and directs this thing. I mean, for one, this movie is just so well crafted. It feels like Coogler put everything he had into this movie, and makes every scene as interesting, heartfelt, or intense as it could possibly be. But he also knows how to sprinkle good humor throughout that doesn't feel forced or quippy. It's always very funny, and it comes at the right time. And I'll say that the drama in the first half is very interesting. Like, in another movie, I'd be kind of disappointed there was a lack of horror or a lack of action, but it's also good, and it's also well written and well done, that I kind of forgot I was even watching a horror movie for a lot of the time. But look, when the movie does get there, and it does get there very hard, very quickly, it's never jarring. It just feels very natural. It's kind of like this evolution of where the plot's going. It's the evolution of the characters' journeys, and it just works. And then there's the performances. Michael B. Jordan is great as both of the lead twins. He gives both a lot of personality, and I enjoyed getting to see how they differed in their tones and mannerisms. Both are very interesting characters in Smoke and Stack. And then you have a great supporting cast, including Delroy Lindo, Wunmi Musaku, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connor, Lee Jun Lee, and Miles Catone. This is actually Catone's first movie, and he absolutely nails it. He's great. There are a few scenes with him that I was just like, wow, for someone as young as he is and, new to movies as he is, he's just so good. And I know there are probably a few people I left out. It's not because they're not good, it's just this movie just has a stacked cast, and there are just so many people, I can't mention them all. And then moving on, I think the action is very well done. It's not a lot of action, but when it's there, it's intense and well choreographed. There's one scene in particular that I think audiences are going to resonate with for the action. It's just this one big giant fight with a bunch of people, and it's really cool. It's really well done, very intense, very gritty, and it's just a really good scene. And I also think the way music is incorporated into the movie is actually very well done. Not even just the singing, which there is a lot of and it's good, but also the score. Ludwig Göransson is super talented, and I love what he brings to this movie. He's been such a great composer recently. I mean, he's done stuff like Mandalorian, Oppenheimer, Tenet, a few other things, and he's just really great, like top of his class, definitely up there very soon with like top tier composers, with your John Williams and your Michael Giacchino and your Hans Zimmer, all those. He's just totally up there. Great composer. And lastly, I love the cinematography, editing, visual effects, production design, costume design, sound design, and lighting here. Or in other words, this movie is just technically beautiful. It does a lot right in these categories. I think we could see a lot of them up for awards later in the year. And I really have a lot of positives with this movie overall, but I'll also mention the few issues I do have with this movie while I'm at it. One is that I wish it was paced just a little bit better. The first half is very heavy on setup and the drama, and I wouldn't have minded if maybe like 5 minutes were cut from that portion. I just feel like it might have gone on a little too long, maybe just kind of speed things up a little bit. I don't know if that'll change on a rewatch, because now I know where it's going, but just to me it felt like it went on just a little too long. And I also don't really love the aspect ratio this movie has. If you don't know what aspect ratios are, it's just kind of how the movie is shot, how it looks on the screen. Like, you'll notice some movies have more of a wide, look to it, it just kind of goes from wall to wall. Sometimes it looks a little more square. In this movie, it's very wide, so it's actually it doesn't fill up the whole screen. You'll notice black bars probably on the top and bottom when you watch it. And I know I said this before when the movie The Creator came out, but I'll say it again. I just don't love the way this movie is shot on the aspect ratio. I don't know, it's just it's the most inconvenient aspect ratio in my opinion. Just the way the black bars go, it's there's no ideal circumstance unless you're watching this in IMAX where it fills up the whole screen at points. It just has the smallest way to view it, so it's never gonna really fill up the entire screen. So I feel like you just gotta sit closer when you watch it, otherwise you're gonna be missing some things maybe. I just don't love that about it. It's not like the movies, it's not a make or break on the movie, but I think watching this on TV, you'll have to sit up pretty close to your television, otherwise it's just going to look really small. But I think that's another reason of why you should see this film on the biggest screen you possibly can. And lastly, I feel like, at least in my first viewing, there are a few things I was a little unclear on regarding the villains and the motives, and just how they got there. Maybe that'll get cleared up in a second watch, I'm not entirely sure, but just especially with one of the main vampires. Maybe that'll get cleared up on a second watch, I don't know. I feel like just a little more clarity in what the interpretation was supposed to be, I think would have helped. And then another thing, this isn't a complaint, just something to note if you haven't already seen the movie. Make sure you stay for the mid-credit scene. Like, outside of comic book movies, this is probably the most important mid-credit scene I've ever seen in my life. There's also one at the very end of the credits that's a pretty nice little thing, but it's not something you need to stay for. The mid-credit scene, though, is literally an epilogue to the movie. It's like a final scene that resolves certain things and has a few reveals in the process. Don't get me wrong, even if you don't watch the scene, the movie still ends on a pretty satisfying note. Like, if you absolutely have to leave, it's not like it's going to change your entire perspective on the movie. But if you don't stay, I think you'll be missing a few lingering threads that kind of just get wrapped up a little more. Like, and I think some things with the characters, maybe you would have, like, wanted to see more of. You get a little bit more of that at the end. So I think if you can stay, you absolutely should. And I'm like, even if you have to go to the bathroom, just stay a few more minutes. It's totally worth it. I promise you. But just, if you have to leave after that one, it's fine. The last thing you don't need to stay for, but the mid-credit scene, absolutely stay for if you can. But as a whole, I really like this movie. Maybe even loved it. I think time will tell just how much this movie stays with me and how much it impacted me. But I think seeing it again will help me appreciate it even more than I already do. And it's still very early in the year, so we'll see how good the rest is. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Sinners up for some Oscars, including Best Picture. It's just really that good. So I'm going to give this movie an A-. Just those few little problems I have, nothing too major, but I think seeing it again, it might even go up to an A. I'm sure this movie will be definitely high up on my list at the end of the year. And I think definitely go see this one as soon as you can, even if you're not a typical horror fan, even if you're not usually a fan of the genre. I think there's a good chance you'll enjoy it. There's just something for everyone here, whether you like humor, whether you like romance, action, drama, just good characters. I mean, maybe this movie will scare you, but I promise it's worth it. So just go check it out. And that about does it for this episode. If you want to follow my reviews, you can find me on Letterboxd at MovieKing1224. You can also listen to this podcast on your favorite apps such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it and improve the show. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to hear more like it. I appreciate you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.